So I must first of all share extreme energy that I could feel inside me. But how about you? Did you feel energized? I mean, it was very clear on your faces, on those who were speaking and also those who were listening, all of us, that there was an intensity of intimacy, intimate interactions that some of us shared here are a wonderful building block for this program, this course. And I wonder whether you would like to go back and organize a similar session in your own group and collect more stories that inspire us, and share with one so that we all continue to nurture this tree of knowledge that has sprouted today. There is so much to be discovered. There are two things that all of us have to contend with. One is autonomy, and second is agency. Autonomy is the freedom to make decisions, right? And agency is the willingness or the capacity to use this freedom. Lot of us have a lot of autonomy. But sometimes we lack agency. The autonomy is what we all have, but agency is sometimes weak. Today, the stories that you have shared have told us, have communicated to us that many of you have actually used your agency very powerfully. This is something all of us can do. This is the crux of what UNDP Acceleration Lab Network is trying to do in the world, in 115 countries, 91 labs. And we had the opportunity to work with all of them through a course called as MIST, Management of Inclusive Innovation for Social Transformation, MIST. So I would like to now suggest that when we try to map creativity, tap innovation, and cap inertia, map creativity, tap innovations, and cap inertia, we realize that this is the challenge that our society is facing. Within Colombia, you have found so many examples where single women have taken control of their destiny, where the people affected by the victims of violence have taken control of their destiny, where the migrants have been culturally assimilated. You shared environmental examples, you shared justice, peace, entrepreneurship, livelihoods, conservation. The example of turtles was a very interesting one. And how a conservation project became an entrepreneurship project by bringing tourism as an enterprise was a very telling example. So what do we learn from it? The day you are not surprised, you have not lived. You have just existed. This is the yardstick I use every day for my own life. If in 24 hours there is not a moment when I say, oh my God, I didn't know that, then that day is wasted. And I would wish that we all keep our expectation from ourselves higher. There is no bigger crime that we can commit than to reduce the expectation from ourselves. Once we reduce the expectation from ourselves, automatically our expectation from others also goes down. And the whole spiral becomes downward. I expect less, you deliver less. You expect less, I deliver less. The whole society gets trapped into a downward spiral. We don't want that. And there is an evidence that many of us have shared today, which proves that it is possible to get out of it. Therefore, this process must continue, and we must be able to. Now, why are we interested in innovation? Because we want to overcome exclusion. You mentioned about marginalized communities. You mentioned about problems of drinking water not being available. You know, in my campus, where you came, Johan, our consumption of water is 200 liters per capita per day. In the inner city of Ahmedabad, 20 liters per capita per day for the whole family. We waste so much water. Our practices are so wasteful because we don't realize that it is scarce. But there are people, as you mentioned today, who don't have this luxury. So how do we overcome the exclusion of communities which are remote? Some of them are excluded because they are very remote. Some of them are excluded because they are in neglected occupation. You mentioned about craft. One of the indigenous group trying to make a lot of craft goods. About leaves, about flowers, about different things. And if you really think of science and technology institutions, the universities, I've been teaching for 40 years at Institute of Management Ahmedabad. How many solutions we would develop, exceptions of Honeybee Network apart, for those trades, those occupations, those sectors which engage the poorest people? How much research do we do on those plants, on those materials, on those tools which are used to make craft activities? The result is the productivity remains low. Income, therefore, by definition, is low. So we perpetuate poverty. So we want to overcome that exclusion. Just because I'm in the handloom, I'm weaving, I'm a craft person. You mentioned about blankets. Some people weave blankets, some indigenous groups, from the wool. And it may have a lot of properties which are very useful, very healthy. That's where our role comes in. Some are excluded, as you mentioned today, about seasonal variation, floods. People who live in the regions, you mentioned from August and right up to this time, some of the regions are under flood. So communication in those regions is handicapped. Delivering medicines, delivering food, delivering health care. A pregnant woman has to be taken to the hospital. There is flood. No boat is available. No amphibious cycle is available to deliver milk to the infant. And there could be so many other kinds of exclusion which are seasonal for a period of time, not round the year. They need emergency response during that period. But that emergency response is not emergency. Every year flood comes. So those of you who have little statistical mind would know that the regions where flood come are well known. The timing of flood may be uncertain. The duration of the flood may be uncertain. Isn't it? Which means if we have to develop a strategy, we know where it will be implemented. That there is no doubt about it. The capabilities has to be built so that we activate the community response when the emergency comes. So there are many reasons. There are reasons where markets are weak. There are a lot of potato varieties or maize varieties which have unique properties. Let me ask a simple question. Many of you have eaten the cobs of maize, have you? Roasted cobs or boiled cobs? What do you call them? Cobs? Corn, cob. You have eaten that? When you peel the skin, there are hairs. We call it silk. You may have some term for it. Do you know? Sorry? What do you call that? The fiber, the skill, the silk? When you peel the corn cob, there are hairs. These are style. These are the parts which come from each seed. And when the seed is fertilized, they become brown. What do? You throw them away, isn't it? Most of you. But read today when you go home, uses of corn silk. Silk meaning that fiber. And you will find it is a very rich source of antioxidant. It can be used by people at my age who have prostate problem. A resource going waste.
For UTIs also.
For UTI also. And women suffer from UTI more than men. This is where the science, technology, and innovation can contribute by adding value to the resources. Either they are abundant, that means they are not used, or they are abundant, that means there is a lot of them. In both the cases, poor will not be excluded. If you have a resource in abundance, poor are unlikely to be excluded. If you have a resource which is abundant, that means farmers don't need it, the landlords don't need it, poor will not be excluded. The word was not clear. Let me write down. Shall I write?
What?
So when resources are abundant and abundant, is it clear? The poor will not be excluded. Now the question arises, how do we create innovations? How can all of us be partner in an innovative process, innovative governance, innovative product development, innovative educational process, innovative reconciliation process, innovative peace process? I'll share with you a very simple framework. Shall I wrap it up?
Yes. I just.
Yeah, that's a good point, that those who have high autonomy and high agency are the achievers. People who don't wait for directions, they are self-motivated, they go and do it, making it happen, as one of you mentioned. They make it happen. So this is high achievers. When you have low autonomy and high agency, this is what you find in resistance group. You know, some of the rebel groups, some of the resistance, they don't have autonomy, but they have agency. They can keep silent. You keep asking questions, they will not speak. And that's their way of showing agency. One of you mentioned that people were not cooperating to begin with. They're not sure that you mean well. So resistance is one form of agency. And in the peace process, we need to be very conscious of this style of protest. In the pedagogy of oppressed, Paul Freire mentioned this. How can silence be a form of protest? You know? When autonomy is low, when agency is low and autonomy is high, these are indifferent elites. They are people who complain about things. They crib about problems. No, system doesn't permit. I want to do it, but there's no freedom. Freedom? You have the freedom. No. System is very constraining. It's very bureaucratic, very corrupt. Lot of elites in whom the society invests most in our education, in our jobs, in our development. We are the most, some of us are most cynical. Cynical, you know, pessimist. Strange. Those who are materially resource rich, those who are more educated, those who are well connected, they spread cynicism in their life, not optimism. Nothing will change. It's not so easy. Don't try. And when both are low, indolent, these are the people who are passive, who just continue to survive somehow. They bear with oppression, they bear with injustice, they bear with unfair system. They neither protest nor they try to change. They just suffer quietly without protesting anything. Sometime they may explode like a volcano if it's too long. So it is a very interesting framework. Can I use this? Yeah, here.
And actually they can get into each other's ear. Indolent people, they get a little bit of agency, they'll come to resistance.
And then they can move here.
They can move here. So that is it.
I mean, our goal is to become achiever. We want to make a difference. We want to bring about change. That's our goal. But there are different pathways. I may have to first resist here. I'm an elite, I'm an educated, I'm a professional, but I'm not taking as many initiatives as I should. So I first resist the inertia, and then I go into this field, this sign. So all of us have to develop strategies to move into that segment. Now let's come to the pathway for innovations. There are 4 dimensions. I will do that. Method or process, 1 dimension. The second dimension is material or material resources. Third is use or application of that material or that process. And fourth is delivery system. Just 1 second. So there are 4 dimensions of any phenomena which lend themselves to an innovative solution. So each of the dimension has been dichotomized into old or new. I may use an old method of negotiation where I don't involve the elders of the community, I just talk to the elected representative and talk to them. That's what governments often do. They invite the elected representatives of the people and discuss with them. I may use an old material, maybe a lecture or a public speech. Or I may use for an old application, something that has been used forever. Or I may deliver by old method of delivery. Unless one of it is new, there is no innovation. So let me take a technological example. We can have a new material. Corn silk. A new material processed by a new method, or I can even boil it, or I can use it by an old method. I can make a tea out of it. Sorry, here. New resource, old method. I'm making a tea out of the corn silk. And I'm using it for a new purpose. UTI. Right? And I deliver it as a DIY process. I don't patent it. I share it.
I think it was shut down.
Sorry? Is it?
You use this one.
Hello, is it better? Sorry. So I'll repeat. So I am taking a new material, corn silk, boiling it as a tea, which is an old method of making tea of any flour or anything, using it for a new purpose, UTI, and delivering it by either a television ad or a poster or a discussion in the school, informing the girls particularly that if they have a problem, they could use this. And provide scientific evidence for that. So an innovation has emerged from an old material. Sometime the traditional knowledge may not have this use. It may have some other uses. The tea I have been taking since morning, this tea has many flowers. What do you call this tea which is being made? Aromatic, but some flowers are there. It doesn't have the conventional tea leaves, correct? It only has flowers. A lot of traditional knowledge exists about flowers, available abundantly. Some of them I found on the street. For example, hibiscus. You have hibiscus flower here? Right? And you can use it for many purposes. You know the uses? Tell me.
It's great for kidneys.
Kidney.
For detoxification.
And it's also good for hairs.
I didn't know that. But for your skin, it's very good.
And you can make oil out of it. You can make tea out of it. Hibiscus flowers. Now,
It is also good for women who have
menstrual
cramps.
cramps. Now, lot of this knowledge, the traditional knowledge of one community can become innovation for another community. You said, I didn't know that. Something new. Something which was traditional community knowledge in my country may be innovation in Colombia, and vice versa. So innovations can be developed by anyone, everyone. I'm one of those, for the last 35 years that Honeybee Network has been around, and I will tell you about network, convinced that there is no part of the world where we don't have creative people. How many of you knew the use of hibiscus for kidney? Raise hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can imagine this knowledge is not very common. 4 out of 40, 10% only. Correct? That means there is a lot of such knowledge which may not be known to even any one of us, as you mentioned. And that knowledge needs to be discovered, documented, brought into the enterprise cycle, brought into the DIY cycle, do it yourself, open source solutions, and improve the lives of people. Not everybody can afford costly medicines, side effects, and all those problems. Why not? So, it is possible, therefore, just a minute. So I'll go back to this diagram. So when 35 years ago we started, what does network do? A nameless, faceless person comes in contact with the network, this is the honeycomb structure, gets an identity. What are we doing? We are giving voice, visibility, and velocity to the creative people. And what is our motto? Our belief is a change not monitored is a change not desired. If we don't track innovations, that means we don't want them. Very simple. No excuse, no alternative explanation. I'm so happy that Anamika started today with inspiring example, and some of these examples also involved innovations by the people. One of you mentioned, not for the community, but from the community. Isn't it? That statement was made by you. We'll come to that. Innovations can be for the people and can be from the people, and we will discuss both kinds of constraints. Now, some of the examples that you have already documented in your lab. These are documented 2 years ago. Vehicle, low cost, low maintenance vehicle designed by some people with a small container here to keep things and deliver them safely. You have a small rack. Again, it folds and becomes a part of the motorbike. You open it and become the shack. Very interesting. It opens opportunities for people who don't have permanent space. They can set up a shop anywhere quickly. A cycle-powered coffee pulper. Later on, it has been motorized by the communities in Colombia. People are thinking of how to improve productivity, how to reduce drudgery, how to improve my business, how to make customer interested in what I'm doing, how to bring customers to my shack or my shop. They're trying different things. They're trying different things. So what has been the purpose of Honeybee Network? We are trying to look for creative people all over the world, and we are trying to convince everybody, and our job in the next 2 weeks we'll be together is to prove that there is no part of Colombia No region, no territory. No sector, no community where creative ways of solving problem cannot be found. If we have not found it, it is maybe our attention, our antenna was not tuned to the right direction. This is a matter of faith for us. And I have never been disappointed. You name a region, we will go there and find out creative ways of problem solving. Because there are, just like in a family, there are some kids who are unsettled and who are not happy, who they don't go with the crowd. They're oddball. They stay separate. They stand apart. Same way, in every community, there are few people who are crazy people. So once when I came for lecture, the title I gave was Bonisi Moloko. Crazy, crazy fellow. Because somebody was sitting at the back and he was saying something. So I said, what are they saying? Then the person said, they are saying Bonisi Moloko. Crazy, you are a crazy, crazy fellow. And I said, this is the title of the article. So there are crazy fellows. You have a language, you have a word for it. Isn't it? Moloko, Bonisi Moloko. Loco. Huh. Crazy. So there is a word for this, that people who try to be at odd with the trend, they don't follow the trend. So we are trying that we will have not only new ways of solving problem, but we also have new pedagogies of solving problem. And many of you today illustrate it. You mentioned about your work with homeless. We have witnessed a few since yesterday. And we also saw some hotels, some restaurant being kind to them, to give them food. And in one place we were taking lunch. That restaurant owner packed enough, which means he might take it and give it to few other people, more than his need. Kindness in the restaurant, but kindness also in the homeless, who is trying to share with other who might not be as mobile as he was. So this work that you're doing with the homeless, and one of you mentioned your mother was doing work with the homeless, and that inspired you. You have made women in the inmates in the prison transform their lives by using theater, is that right? Drama? Amazing, amazing creativity. It's a new pedagogy. In the reform manual of jails, it is not written that you can use theater to improve the morale of the people and help them to become more reformed. No guideline says that. The government has not issued a circular that every jail will have a theater. But now that you notice it, it might become a policy. It might be a good idea that other jail superintendents or officers might like to use theater as a very powerful pedagogy for generating reflection in ourselves. You mentioned an example where a child tells the other child that my uncle killed your father. How do you make those child work together? But they have learned to work together. That's what I understood, isn't it? Huh? They play together. For adults, it will be very difficult to forgive someone. But they've already forgiven. We can learn from those kids. That's the new pedagogy. We have not tried this. How can such extreme cases of antagonism can be reconciled? Already the kids have forgiven each other. Or at least the victim has forgiven the other person. There are lessons in it. And I appeal to you that please document these instances. Don't let them be not lost after the today's session. There is a power in this session, in the examples that you have shared. There's an extraordinary power. There is an extraordinary pedagogic power in the examples you have given today, which can be used to shape the policy of the country, not just this country, maybe many other countries. Johan, don't underestimate the power of these examples. These examples, many of them, they're already hitting me hard when I recall those examples. Just put yourself in the position of that kid whose father was killed by the uncle of other kid. Just think for a minute. What kind of heart you need to be able to get on with the life? All right, that has happened. We won't do that. They can teach us a lesson or two. So I'm saying that our goal is not just to have innovative products and processes, but also pedagogies, innovative heuristics, innovative ways of solving problem, innovative ways of learning, innovative ways of sharing, innovative ways of transforming the structure of governance, innovative ways of making the victims of a system become a driver of change. What can be more powerful in governance? If those who suffer in a system start driving the change for better. And today you didn't have enough time, you had no warning to think. In few minutes you had to come out with an example. But if you had time, and you have time, think again. And next time we will try that each one of you also draw a lesson from it, so that we abstract the wisdom, that we distill the wisdom of the change. Next, please. So this is a simple way of looking at 4 kinds of capital we all have to use in our life to bring about change, to bring about positive change. So the first capital that came into being was natural capital. So 10,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, some community said, I will graze here, you will graze there. I will catch fish from here, you will catch fish from there. We started drawing boundaries around resources. For 30,000 years ago, everything was common. Anybody could go anywhere. No question asked. There was no concept of territory. There was no concept of ownership. There was no concept of exclusion. But slowly and slowly, communities started claiming territorial rights, or usufruct right of the product from the forest. Then this capital was intersected by 2 other capitals, social capital and ethical capital. So social capital is, you know, during the months, during the rainy season, in the rivers, fish go upstream to spawn, to lay the eggs in the shallow water. You have a concept of that? The fish move against the current and go into shallow waters, in tributaries, to lay their eggs. They become very dull, they move very slowly. There's a taboo, don't catch fish when they're laying eggs. I don't know in Colombia, but in many countries, people are not supposed to catch fish during the spawning period. Because if you kill them at that time, the whole population of the fish will go down. Right? Do you have such a practice? Huh? But I'm saying even traditional communities may have had such practices. Right? And there are sanctions if somebody did that. Similarly, and now when they had the concept of responsible fishing, where nobody is supervising, is part of ethical capital. That means I regulate my behavior. I think it is wrong thing to do, therefore I will not do it. But there's another kind of regulation. Nobody should use the gill net of less than 4 inches mesh size, so that you don't catch a small fish, you only catch big fish. If somebody is found using the gill net of small size fish, then that person can be punished. Their net can be captured and burnt or torn. There is a regulation from outside. Social capital is when society constrains my behavior. Ethical capital is when my morale, my conscience, my inner value system constrains my behavior. Since yesterday, both of us were looking that even in the night, when there is a red light, the traffic in Bogota stops. There is no policeman there. No fine will be there. I didn't find any CCTV camera which will capture your number of car or vehicle. People follow that, isn't it? This is their high ethical capital. In my country, you have seen, impossible. Anybody will cross anytime. You know, they were just looking for it. There's no policeman. Okay, let's cross. The highest number of people in my country die because of accident, no because of disease, accidents. In India, the single largest reason for death in our country is accident. I'm sure in Bogota you don't have that problem. Not as much, I think. Much less, much less. Okay, but in this region, the one that we have seen last 6-7 kilometers we were walking yesterday, we found people were obeying the rules without external regulation. We didn't find a single policeman, somehow, which gave us an impression that people here are regulating their own conduct very well, which is nice. Even for pedestrians, we'll wait for the light as we were walking today morning, and don't cross just like that. In my country, they don't wait, they just cross. So this is the index of how society will grow. If it has high ethical capital, it would need less supervision, less regulatory structure, less enforcement of law, and better compliance. Any society which has to develop and become a developed society must aim at raising the stock of ethical capital. In an organization, when people are guided by their own sense of right and wrong, the organization would not need many supervisors. Quality control will follow. You don't need a quality control department. Everybody will be watching their own actions. So it's a very important concept. Then, of course, there is the intellectual capital, which is knowledge of all these exchanges. And a small part of intellectual capital is intellectual property. The patent, the trademark, the geographical indication, the plant variety protection, etc., which gives you a right to exclude others from commercializing that invention for a given period of time. Our experience of working with innovators tells us in the last 35 years that 98% of the innovators don't care whether you want to protect their knowledge or not. They want to share it openly. We have filed about 1,200 patents on behalf of the innovators. But we don't enforce it against the fellow farmer, fellow mechanic. For common people, it is open source. For companies, it is protected. We have hybridized. We didn't follow Western model of intellectual property. We hybridized it. Our society wanted to survive by sharing with each other. We want to encourage cross-pollination of ideas, like honeybees. So we didn't want to enforce it. A neighboring farmer cannot use the method I have developed. Of course he can use, or she can use, not a problem. Next. So what is network trying to do now? Visibility, voice, and velocity. We are making innovations visible. If the stories that we share today can get documented properly and uploaded on a portal of positive change stories, stories that matter, stories that motivate us, stories that bring about change in society. Then you are giving visibility to the person who is narrating the story, but also the people about whom the story is, isn't it? Both have to be acknowledged. In our magazine that you will get today, in this magazine, we document, we acknowledge the scout, the one who discovers an innovation, and also the innovator. Very important. Acknowledging, if you didn't share, how would we know about that community? How would we know that children can reconcile and forgive each other? How do we know? Unless you share. So those who are narrating these stories deserve our appreciation, our acknowledgement. And those communities whose stories these are, of course, deserve our appreciation. So, Joanne, this is the principle. First operational principle of Honeybee Network, that we will always acknowledge the people who put us in touch with the innovator or innovative communities or creative communities or communities that conserve resources. Without such people, we would not know those stories. So make it a principle. Whenever you are writing papers, writing reports, do acknowledge the people who brought to your knowledge and their story, the example. Many times, if you don't do that, society may become stingy, miserly, may withhold the information. Oh, this person never acknowledges, why should I tell? Something like that may happen. We don't want that culture to grow. Sharing must be.
But sir, here I think the good part was everybody had a name. They did not say such and such farmer or one of the farmers. They always took names. So we really like that about this group, that you remember people and not the group of people they come from.
Many times we make them anonymous. We did not make them anonymous. That was something very important. It's a good lesson today. We all appreciate. Both of us feel this is very good foundation, Joanne, on which we are building up this edifice of innovation-based society. The spirit of acknowledging communities by name and address is a good one, is a healthy one, is an ethical one. Next, please. Now we should, some of the definitions we will have to remember. The innovations which come from the people, from the grassroots, are different from the innovations that we develop for the people. In literature, you will find a lot of confusion. People in Sussex, University of Sussex in England, and many other scholars around the world have done this mistake. They have mixed up both and called them all as a bundle of grassroots innovation. Not right, because when you design policies, the policies for innovation from the people will be different, because these people are not educated. They cannot fill up your forms. They may not even know what the intellectual property rights are. They may not have funds to make a replication of that innovation. They may not have funds even to sometimes offer tea for a village meeting. They may be so poor, isn't it? It's possible. So, innovations which come from grassroots, people who solve problems through their own genius, through their own effort, need different kind of policies, different kind of institutional structure, different kinds of support system than those who are in university, a company, UNDP, or another organization. We are having a lot of good contacts. We have a lot of resources, material resources. We have a lot of ability to mobilize resources from others. So our constraints are far less, far different than the constraints that people at the community level face. So if you are going to design institutional structure, you're designing policies, you're designing processes, please remember that when it comes to community level innovators, grassroots innovators, first of all, we have to work in local language. Some of them may have their own dialect, they may have their own language. We should respect that. They may not understand the Spanish that you speak here. Isn't it? Quechua or some other tribal language they may have. They may have some norms. For example, the elders in their community have to be paid respect before discussing anything. These norms have to be respected. If you bypass the elders of the community, they may not cooperate with us many times. Isn't it? Some of these communities have a structure of governance where elders of the community matter more. Sometimes they are men, sometimes they may also include women. Those problems have to be tackled as they evolve. They may not be able to fit, many of them are illiterate or less educated. So when we designed Srishti, Gyan and NIF, National Innovation Foundation, we made sure that you will not ask innovator to fill up a form for assistance. No, we have to fill it up for them. And in each case, we take what is called as prior informed consent. You go to a doctor and you want your heart to be checked. Doctor says, I will do a TMT test. You know, there is a machine on which he makes you stand. The tape moves and he checks your heartbeat. He tells you the risk involved. He asks you or your ward to sign a paper of no liability. Doctor tells you that I'm around, I'll take care. But I don't want to take the responsibility if something untoward happens. I will be taking care, but 1 in 25,000 chances that some people may die while TMT test is taking place. I have to warn you of that risk. When we work with the people, you gave example of aqueduct today. A nice example. How people designed the aqueduct for irrigation and managing water for about a community of 100 people. Isn't it? Nice example. But if we were to build an aqueduct and we did not take care of the routine, the contour of the land, and the duct broke or created flood in the region, are we going to take responsibility for that? Do we tell people that there's a risk involved in our design? We don't. But we must. A prior informed consent means when I bring a new variety, I bring a new technology, I bring a new resource, I need to warn people of the risks. Even if when we share grassroots innovations from one part of the country to another, we should tell them, we don't know it is better, but we know it is different. See the difference? Because it is not proven. We have not tested it in your region. We don't know it is going to work or not. But we know that it is different. It is something different, something new. We want you to try this. But we are not promising that it will necessarily work because we have not tested it. This is the part of the informed consent. Just as in health system, in doctor takes the informed consent. Before doing surgery, they take the consent of the patient's family, isn't it? Correct? Same way, when we are going to do surgery in social system, we're going to change something radically, drastically. We need to tell people what the risks involved are, and that we want your consent, your permission to bring about to do an experiment to try to change the system. So please, I will summarize here. What have I said? Innovations from grassroots are very different from innovation for grassroots. Sometimes they are solving their own problem or community's problem. Scale is limited. When you want to scale up the innovation, I have to do experiments. Large number of on-site experiments. On-site experiments. Many times we scale up the idea without testing it. Isn't it? And that's not right. Shall I stop here, or maybe one more slide and then we'll take questions? We should not confuse grassroots innovations with jugaad or makeshift solutions. Many times, people make makeshift solutions. So in our country, for example, they will take a cart and drive it with an irrigation engine, not the automobile engine. And it moves, but it is a makeshift solution. It's not a good solution. It's not a durable solution. It is not a safe solution. So temporary solutions, makeshift solutions are useful sometimes. They are also very creative. But we should not confuse that they are innovations. They are grassroots innovations. Any question? No? All right.
Maybe you explain a little bit more, like what's the grassroots to that and makeshift.
Yeah, just, yeah. Let me rub it. Yes, please. Yeah, go ahead.
Can you explain the definition of agency when you describe it? Thank you. Can you describe the definition of agency that you was using a couple minutes ago?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So autonomy is the freedom that I have to make decision, to make a choice. So some of you decided to join this course because of your freedom. But not everybody used that freedom. Only some of you used it. That is your agency. Agency is capacity or willingness to use the freedom that you have. Many of us have freedom to make choices and we don't make them because we are timid, we are afraid, we lack courage, we lack volition, right? That is the reason why we have to strengthen our agency. No society can grow, no organization can grow if it does not make the people use their autonomy for making decisions. So we have to increase the autonomy, we have to decentralize power. That's what you're trying to do in governance, isn't it? You're trying to decentralize the power. But you have to also make people capable of using the power that you're decentralizing. Many times decentralization is not enough. If we don't build the ability of people, capability of people to use that freedom, they continue to look up to you. Okay, what should we do now? You told us that we can do this, but we don't know how to do it. Please tell us. And we keep telling it. And the more we tell, the less agency they will have because they will become dependent on us. Agency is to let people make mistakes. If I want to increase their agency, I should allow you to make mistake and not sit on your shoulders watch you all the time. Don't do this, don't do that. Those kids in your family who turned out to be self-motivated adult did not either care about the parents' instruction or their parent did not object to their making mistake all the time. In our families, that's how some of us become more empowered. In our organizations, we have to do the same thing. Does it make it clear to you now?
I think they can explain it with the girl's example who wanted to go to NASA.
Ah.
She had the autonomy to choose, but she did not have the capacity to apply for it. And our colleague here
Empowered the agency
empowered the agency, and so she could achieve what she wanted to do.
and became a role model.
Yes.
And many more kids now have the same power that she had, but didn't know that they could achieve. Now that she has done it, they could also possibly. So you have increased the agency of large number, thousands of kids, thousands of girl children and other kids by one example. So yes, we can change, we can improve the agency. That's true. That's our job. That's what we should do. Now coming back to the innovations. Grassroots innovations for and innovations from, and how do we distinguish them with 2 or 3 different kinds of word that you come across. One is jugaad or makeshift. Makeshift is a temporary solution. And we will do an exercise today where you will notice that sometimes if the old radiator of the car was leaking, we stop the leak by using soap, washing soap. We put little soap and it plugged the leak in the radiator, old cars, when they had water-based radiator. That is a makeshift solution. An innovation would be, it doesn't have to leak. It should be made of a material that will not have leak. That is an innovation. But earlier when we had fountain pen, I don't know if you use them, but in my childhood we used the fountain pen. You had to fill up the ink, isn't it, with a tube. They used to leak many times. Our hands will get colored, and our clothes sometimes will get blue and all of that. And we will try to we'll put some paper in that rings to make it tight so that ink doesn't leak. These are all makeshift solutions. A durable solution is a syringe came, the later on pen had syringe. You could suck the ink and it will not leak. It was tight. That is a durable solution. So you have many innovations that have changed our way of life and have improved our quality of life because of the durable solutions that work. In the cycle, we saw some people using a small motor on the front wheel in Bogota, isn't it? A small motor is fitted on the front wheel to run the cycle. It's a low-cost motorized cycle, isn't it? I don't know whether they are manufactured or somebody fits it retrofitting, both. So when you do a retrofitting, it might be a good improvement, but maybe not very stable. Sometimes it may fall down. It may not be optimized, correct? As against that, when the motor is part of the cycle, designed in such a way that it will not come out and it is safe. Noise is also less. The one that is retrofitted, I think it makes more noise, as we saw yesterday in some cycles. So the makeshift solution is a temporary solution. If you rely on makeshift solution, the pressure on your mind to develop long-term solutions goes down. The society does not progress as much as it can and as it should if it depends upon temporary solutions. The will to bring long-term changes in our society, in technology, in institutions, in culture, in processes, requires us not to get satisfied with too little too early. People who get satisfied with too little too early will never bring about transformative changes in society or in their life. Never. It is true for us as an individual also. If you get satisfied with too small achievements and you become very happy, the pressure for making bigger achievement will not come from within. That's true for us, that is true for society. Is that clear about why makeshift solutions are not the way to go? They're all right for the time being, but they must be replaced by more durable solutions. We should support people to find more durable solutions. And there must be mechanism, policies, institutions, funds, and I will mention that in a minute. Well, next please. So there are three. Yes, the traditional knowledge of the elders can be a driver with blending with modern science and technology of new innovations. I gave you example of corn silk. There are many examples of traditional knowledge based products and services which you find. You mentioned about that lady who was making oil out of that flower. One of the second example that was there. They made oil from that particular flower in that region. That example was also good when you mentioned that they did not use nails, but the way they used the wood or the stones, this architecture was very stable. Sometimes traditional knowledge provides us solutions that may be very affordable, very durable, and very sustainable. When there was an earthquake in our mountains, Uttarakhand, not part of our country, Himalayan region, some houses did not collapse. And those were the traditional built houses of wooden structure. The one which were made of concrete collapsed. Because they had a way in which they could move the wood, the logs. Earthquake comes horizontally. It doesn't come like this, it comes like this. The motion of the earth is horizontal. So if you allow the logs or the base of the wood, the foundation of the house, to move on rolling logs or rolling pins, then they don't fall down. Traditional architecture sometimes uses very good understanding of environment. But sometimes traditional knowledge may not be good. I'll mention one example with great reservation, but I want to tell you this. In many parts of our country, the gender ratio is very adverse. There are less women, more men. Because in our culture, unlike here I think, you have reasonably good gender ratio, isn't it, in Colombia? Gender ratio, reasonably good, maybe 1:1, more or less. In our country, there are parts where it is 0.8 to 1, 1 male and 1,000 male, 800 girls. Now, there are some practices by which they do feticide and other things, which is very sad. I don't want to mention this anywhere, but I want to tell you that I don't want to support that traditional knowledge. People use dynamite to catch fish. Have you heard about that? Very non-sustainable. We don't want to encourage that practice. But people have developed it themselves. We have not given them this practice. They discovered it. So there are practices which people sometimes use which are highly non-sustainable. And just because they're traditional, just because they're community-based practice, we will not support them. All innovations are not good. There are good innovations and there are bad innovations. And we cannot support the innovations which are against the environment, which are against the gender justice, which are against the ethics, which are against the women. No, we won't. But there are. So we must be very clear that just because something is innovative doesn't mean it's good. using dynamite to catch fish. It kills a small fish, it kills big fish. Doesn't discriminate. Using gill net of 2-inch size or 3-inch size or 1-inch size, catching all the small fish as well as big fish. Not good. You know the famous tuna dolphin case in Pacific water. Sometime when you catch tuna fish, dolphin also gets caught. Not sustainable. We don't want dolphin to be killed. There is a big case, WTO case, that took place. So please appreciate that traditional knowledge may have functional basis, but sometimes it may be destructive either of the environment or of gender balance or of health of the people or otherwise. So many communities use many addictive substances. I mean, marijuana and many other plants, we know they are causing addiction, and some of the communities that use them, they use them in their rituals. So long as it was used in ritual, it was controlled. The moment it became an everyday practice, it became problem. Rituals are performed once in a few months or once in a year. Till that time, it remained in control. The moment it became a daily practice, it became a nuisance. And we're all suffering because of that. A lot of crime takes place because of drugs, isn't it? Because of those plant-based narcotics. So, traditional knowledge, yes, we will use it where it has science underlying it, scientifically valid, we will use it. But when there is no science underlying it, when it is not healthy, we will not encourage it. Very clear. Next, please. Now, this is, there are two aspects of this diagram. One is innovations need to be accessible, affordable, and available. Accessible, affordable, and available. So there's a medicine which cost 10 cents, let us say, but is not available in the shop in my village. It is affordable. It is either not accessible or not available. What is the point? If we develop solutions that are not accessible, people cannot find them in their local shops, or they cannot find them from local stores, or they cannot order them online or whatever, then they are not accessible, even if they are affordable. And if they are not available, I order and I don't get a delivery for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, because innovator does not have money to keep it ready. Every time order comes, he makes it new, a new implement or a new product, new design, then it's not going to be sustainable. So whenever we design innovations, we should look at accessibility, affordability, and availability. And all the three are design instruments. We can change them. Affordable means if I'm a poor person and my capacity to pay is less, I should be able to buy it. That's affordable. Accessibility is if I have no transport of my own and I can only walk up to 10 kilometers, 15 kilometers, within that distance, is there a place where it is accessible? And available is, that means there is inventory of that solution, that product in the shop or in the dispensary or in the health center. If there is no, if the stock out is there, that means when I need it, the stock is not there. Then what do I do with affordability? What do I do with accessibility? All the three are important. And now I bring in another word which you also come across, frugal. Frugal innovation. Many times you hear about frugal innovation. Frugal innovations, frugal for whom? For the buyer? Yes. Consumer? Yes. Frugal for manufacturer? Yes. But frugal for the earth, for the environment also. If I use plastic, as we know, the problem is caused, a plastic sachet, a tea bag, for example, देखो इसके अंदर है. Now this sachet is very affordable, very frugal. Cost is much less, and I can buy it. But the cost, if this is made of plastic, the cost of collecting this piece of plastic from all the villages of Colombia is very high. Isn't it? Then it is not frugal for the environment. Very costly innovation. But we confuse. In literature, you will find people confusing. They will not mention that frugality must also be for the environment. They will only mention frugal for the manufacturer and consumer. 90%, 95% literature papers on the subject use this wrong definition. Don't fall for it. Please be careful. We have done a lot of damage in this world by bringing cheap, extremely low-cost solutions, but of material that does a lot of harm to our environment. Many times you must have heard about the fish caught from the sea. In their stomach, a lot of plastic is found. Microplastic. Fortunately, we have water in glass here. But many times you use plastic bottles. And sometimes you reuse them 2 times, 3 times. You should not be, but you use them. And what is happening to the microplastic? Plastic is coming from the air, from the water bottle, in our lungs, in our body. And increase our health expenditure. We save on the cost of water bottle, but we increase our health expenditure. And we're not balancing the two. So frugality is not only for consumer, for purchase of the product. Frugality is not only for manufacturer. Frugality is also for the environment, which includes environmental health and our health. We are part of environment. Now, it becomes sustainable when it takes care of the environmental sustainability. Inclusive, if it is also meet the need of excluded people. Poor people can afford it, can redesign it, can modify its application. Then it is inclusive. It can be used by people with disability. I'll give you examples where many solutions that we have are not accessible for disabled people. They cannot use them. That means it is not inclusive enough. Here you have on the roadside, we found you have a ramp at almost all crossing. Somebody who designed the city has done it well. In our country, we don't have ramps in many places. You see, it is a good sign of accessibility. Small detail, but makes a difference for a wheelchair person. If he has to drive or she has to drive the wheelchair oneself, and you have to go down from a higher level, you can fall down if there was not a slope. So it's a good example. In public policy, in public infrastructure, how can we make it inclusive? That's a good example. Many times we don't do that, that's unfortunate. Signage in many buildings are not for blind people. We don't have braille signs, correct? In my institute, we don't have, I don't know what your office. That if blind person comes, he should be able to find on a wall a sign which will indicate which side he or she should go to find the person he or she wants. But there is somebody, I will show you the example of that in the course of time. A boy who made a goggles which could identify the by the obstacle on left side, right side, center, and give him a warning. And he could navigate, a blind person could navigate his way by wearing those goggles, those glasses. Very inclusive innovation. It should be affordable. Now there are image processing software embedded in the glasses. So I can look up like this. There is a nameplate, Professor Anil Gupta. It reads it, converts text into speech. I hear the room of Professor Anil Gupta has come, enter on the right. The blind person can come to my office. But these are not everyday experience. We are not getting They're not in daily use. But such products will be example of inclusivity of blind people, of disabled people. Next one. How much time do we have? Okay. Now, before I just stop it. Just stop it. Or keep it here. Before I proceed to some deeper issues of sustainability, any questions so far? Anything that is bothering you which was not clear enough? So we then don't go further. We'll stop it here. I'll just give you this definition. Way back I wrote about this. How do we do sustainability analysis broadly? Because many of you are concerned with either directly or indirectly. So there are two dimensions: time frame and decision-making option. If time frame is long and choice is narrow, I'm very vulnerable. For example, I have only sheep to manage my life. I'm a shepherd. And for next 20 years, I have to manage only by grazing sheep. I have no other enterprise. I'm very vulnerable because of the climate change. The grasses are not available. Market for my sheep may be going down. Wool is not being bought. Whole range of problems. I have only one enterprise, one choice. If I can sometime have sheep, sometime I can do farming, sometime I can keep poultry, my choice may be still narrow, but in the short time frame. After 6 months, I become a farmer. I take one crop. So that means I have two enterprises. I have livestock and I have crop. I'm less vulnerable compared to the person who had no other choice. No land, nothing. If I have wide choices in the short time frame, I will catch fish, I will have some livestock, I will have some craft, I will have some crop, and I'm not using them sustainably because I'm very opportunistic. I use chemical fertilizer, I don't use organic fertilizer. Well, I want to get maximum out of the soil in minimum period of time. My time frame is short and my choices are very many. I'm an exploiter. I'll make this word go to dogs. I will not care about next generation. I will not worry about them. But sustainability means long time frame and wider choices. That is what sustainability means. Give me more choices. Give me more choices than my father had or my mother had. Many of you mentioned how your mother brought you up with very limited choices, right? If you can bring more choices for your children and children of others in the long time frame, people are not forced to make decisions for next year or 2 years after. They can think, okay, after 10 years, after 20 years, I'll do this. They can plan for longer period. Then this society is developed society, a sustainable society. If I plant trees which can be harvested in 5 years, fast growing species, I'll get money in the short run. But environment would not be sustainable. If I plant trees that will be ready after 50 years, I will plant and my children will harvest them. That is a sign of a sustainable society. I'm not planning only for my use, I'm planning for my children's use. I'm planting those species which grow slowly, but I know that those species are very good for birds, for animals, for squirrels, and they are keystone species. A lot of biodiversity grows around those species because they grow slowly. And let other species also grow. So it's very important that whatever we do, infrastructure, if you build a house for me and that needs replacement after 5 years or 7 years or 10 years, it's not sustainable. But if it's at least going to sustain for 30, 40, 50 years, good, sustainable. Then I will make investment in it. I'll take care of the common lands also. If I have no right over the common land, you mentioned about neighborhood community in one place which tried to manage the common land around their neighborhood. One of the examples was there. That example shows that community could assert their rights on the common piece of land either by consent or by law. Sometimes it is by common consent, by practice. There's no law, but practice says if we all cooperate, we'll manage it well. The gardens. Right. Community maintained that. Yeah, you're using mic. You're not using mic.
It was regarding the example where somebody shared that you have a garden, community managed garden in the heart of Bogota, where the community comes together and make a garden like herbals and other things. So that is how what he was saying, that when you have common land, where I can maybe do something on my own and I'm not punished for doing that. And now I bring my community or others and I collaborate with others to work to make it better, to make it more beautiful, maybe more useful in that case. And I'm assured by the, so another thing that professor maybe we left, assurance. So when the state assures me that whatever good I'm trying to do, I'll not be punished for it, or it is not being taken otherwise, then communities become more agile and they participate more. So a degree of assurance is also important when we are thinking about sustainable communities and sustainable institutions, isn't it?
Yes.
So
In fact, as we discussed today, we have limited time, but let me just mention, we will discuss it in the next class. I will leave it with you to think about it, to reflect on it. We will not discuss it today, but just it is for reflection when you have time. So just reflect on this matrix of access, assurance, access, assurance, ability, that means skill, and attitude. All the four are necessary for bringing about change, isn't it? It's not enough if I have access but no assurance. If I plant a tree and I'm not allowed to harvest it, will I plant it? No. If I want to plant a tree and I have assurance that I can harvest it, but I don't have the skill of growing the plant, will I grow it? No. And if my attitude itself is not positive, I don't want to take an initiative, no amount of policies will not help. So we need to have all the four. And of course, resources, institutions, technology, and culture, they interface with all the four. Access to resources, access to technology, access to institutions. So when we design programs, this can be a good sieve to look at whether my program has all the components properly provided for. It's a good way to ensure that my program takes care of the access, it takes care of the assurances to the people and to the managers, and takes care of the skills that are required. Sometimes a skill building program is in a separate department. The institution building is another department. Access is somebody else is looking after. How do we integrate them is what this will help. But we will not discuss it now in the next class. Anybody has any other point, any other observation? Do you think we are moving at a right speed, or do we need to change anything at our end? Is it all right? Does it make sense what we're talking?
are you bored?
Muchas gracias por la clase. Yo tengo un... Vale, vale. Muchas gracias, muchas gracias. Algunos autores también hablan en la innovación de la deseabilidad desirable, pero no hemos hablado de ello, porque sí hemos hablado de accesibilidad, asequibilidad, de viabilidad, pero la deseabilidad es muy importante también en el diseño de productos en innovación. Y no sé si nos pudieran hablar un poquitito de ella.
It's a very good point, very good point. The desirability comes from, so Sorry. It's a good point that you made just now, that desirability. Now, desirability is captured sometimes in the sustainability discussion because, as I gave you example, the feticide or letting the girl child not be born or not be taken care properly is not desirable by the policymaker, but it's desirable by that family which does this injustice. Gender violence is not desirable, but the family where it is taking place, they think it is desirable to keep women in control, quote unquote, or to use the power against the weak. So, a lot of gender violence has this root in its assertion of masculine or patriarchal power against the weak. And it's not desirable for me, it's desirable for them. Addiction is not desirable for me, but desirable for the fellow who's unfortunately falling victim to that. So it's a very paradoxical situation. It's a good point that in development process, we will have paradoxical behavior, contradictions, where what is desirable for me is not desirable for others, or what is desirable for them is not desirable for the government, for the public policy maker. And it's a good point that we should always be clearly aware of the paradoxes that are involved in making such choices.